How to win sellers who are on the fence. That's the topic of today's show. This is Todd Toback, and I want to welcome you to the No Limits Real Estate Investing Podcast. If you're trying to do your first real estate deal and get that big fat check, or if you are trying to scale your business to 6 or 7 figures, this is the show for you. So today, actually, I got the idea for today's show from Big Investor 00 on Instagram. So really appreciate that. And if you have ideas for shows, hit me up on Instagram, Todd Toback, or you can always email support@nolimitsrealestateinvesting.com. But if you want the script that we use to talk to motivated sellers to buy houses at phenomenal discounts so that you could build your cash flow, you could build your equity, you could start to build your real estate empire. Okay, go to nolimitsrealestateinvesting.com/script. nolimitsrealestateinvesting.com/script. And I'm going to give you the script that we use in our business absolutely free. All right, so I want to thank Big Investor 00 from Instagram for sending in this question. He says, listen, how do I get sellers who are on the fence, right, to do business with me, right? They're going out and they are getting other offers, or they're ghosting me, or they're just sitting there and they won't move. And I can tell you that if you've been in this business for any length of time, this is a real thing. As a matter of fact, if you're in any kind of profession that includes closing a sale, this is it, right? They call it ghosting, or just being stuck on the fence, kicking the tires. And I can tell you it's pretty frustrating when you're in that spot. Well, I talk a lot about this in the No Limits selling system, right? Generating leads and talking to sellers and moving them from point A to point B. So if you want the in-depth training, and by the way, I'm gonna do a lot of training on today's episode, but if you want the full sales system that we use to train our own people inside our organization, the one that I've used and my acquisition specialists have used to close deals, you can actually check that out at nolimitsalesystem.com, nolimitsalesystem.com/backdoor. And that's the direct link to purchase that. But back to today's question, specifically this little part here on what to do to move sellers from point A to point B. Really, you're trying to lock up the contract so that you can get paid. And I'm going to relate to you. So let's pretend like you've got a seller and they are motivated, right? You're on the phone, they've got a problem, a situation, timeline, maybe the house is in bad condition. You smelled something there. You go out to the property, you pull out the agreement, and they just say, you know what? I want to think about it. Or I want to get a bunch of other offers, or I'm just not ready. Oh, right? Lets the wind out of your sails. Sometimes for most people, but guess what? Not you, not anymore. The first key in any scenario that I talk a lot about on this podcast and the No Limit Selling System is do not chase them. Do not chase them. I've talked about the dog Molly many times on this show. Rest in peace, Molly. But this was my childhood dog when I was 12. Best dog ever. And when we used to open up our door in the front, it's one of those doors that move in and out that are on the springs. Back in Long Island, New York, she used to just bust out of the door and run down the block to Lindell School in the street. And I used to chase her down there and scream, come back, come back, come back. And the harder I chased Molly, the faster she would run the other way. And so soon I realized, man, this isn't working. And so I decided, hey, to run the other direction, right? We noticed that when we ran, that she would run and jump on us. So we ran the other way. And what do you know? We used to get Molly back in the house by screaming her name and then running in the opposite direction. So how do you do that? Well, reluctance is key in any negotiation. Whenever you feel that stop, right, that pressure, stop pushing the seller. You got to run the other way and be reluctant. So what I'm going to tell you is you can use great questions like, Mr. Seller, I tell you what, I know you got to make the best decision for you, but this is the price that I can pay and make a profit, right? And I understand if you need to go in another direction, but if you do, right, if you need a higher price, I'm not the guy, right? I see you in the quicksand. I could throw you a rope, but I can't jump in there with you, right? That's a form of reluctance. And so you want to use questions like that, right? You want to go negative on the sellers so that they start to chase you. But the most important thing that I'm going to talk about here, which is probably more important than anything on the show. And that is you got to generate leads. Because if you have one lead and you're holding on to it like this little tiny precious piece of gold, and it's the only thing that you have in your world, you're going to be desperate, right? They call this in the sales world commission breath, where this is the only thing that you got going. So you have to have so many leads where if you're sitting in a living room with a seller and they say they're going to think about it, or they're going to get other bids, or, for whatever reason, they're not going to do business today, you're going to hold your head high, your chest out, and you're going to say, hey, that's okay, right? Because you have 100 other leads to call immediately, right? So you got to market. I don't care how you're marketing, generate leads. You can do cold calling, you can mail, you could text, you could drive for dollars. I mentioned them all on this podcast, and we have recommended vendors for all of these, but generating leads will give you power. So now we know we're not going to chase sellers. Number one, by being reluctant, and number two, by generating a ton of leads. Okay, there are two scenarios that I want to talk to you about. The first scenario are the sellers who are absolutely price sensitive. And I want to be very careful using that word price sensitive, because every seller is price sensitive. But there are some sellers that all they care about are price, right? Maybe the house is vacant and they're going to have 20 investors over, and they're going to create a bidding war, and they don't care about you. You can't build rapport with them. They're just like basically closing their ears, and they're like just a clam. And when you feel that, right, when you're one of 20 and you're going to have to bid, for me, I'm going to tell you, just walk away from those deals. I tell our team, don't waste your time. Don't waste your energy. Don't beg, don't plead. Just get out of there, right? Because you're going to, even if you do win the deal, you're only going to make, 1, 2, 5 grand. So let other people fight over the scraps, right? Your time, your energy, your motivation is worth so much more than that, okay? So if you're in a multiple bidding situation, me personally, I get my team the heck out of there. Now, there's another type of seller who, for whatever reason, they can't get off the fence. Maybe they think they want to talk to a few other people, but they have some lingering problems. Maybe they have some trust issues. Maybe they're confused, they're scared, and they just need a little, more confidence to do business. This is where you have to go into question asking mode. So for someone like this, I'm going to say, let me ask you, I know that you said that, you're going to talk to a couple other people, and hey, I think that's a great idea, but let me ask you right now, is there anything else that you're thinking about that's preventing you from making the best decision for you today? And then zip it. Shh. And I mean really zip it, okay? Because there could be 3 other things, right? It could be a tenancy situation. It could mean that they need $10,000 today. It could be mean that they want to stay in the property 90 days after closing. I don't know what it is, right? But you have to listen for other things that are not price, because sometimes sellers use price as a smokescreen. Sometimes they'll act like they'll use the multiple bidding situation as an excuse for what's ever holding them back. I've told this example one time with a seller who just could not make a decision. This one was in Crest, California. And really, she thought her son wanted to buy the property, and many people had called her. But really, she just needed someone to push her to have this tough conversation with her son. And because I gave her the confidence to do that, right, then she did business with me. In her mind, I was the only option after coaching her to do that. So just to confirm, in that first scenario, if you've got someone who's got 20 people over there, they've got no other pain, you prodded, you really dig, and there's nothing that you could do, I'm not getting involved in that deal. And I would tell you, get the heck out of there, right? Let your competitors who listen to other podcasts do that, all right? In the other scenario, you got to ask those tough questions, see if you could offer value outside of price. Now, one of my other favorite questions, you could try this, is if a seller is squirming, right, and look uneasy, I could say, something's making you uneasy about this transaction, right? What is, what's keeping you up at night, right? What haven't you told me that's going through your brain right now? Now, I would have a big smile on your face when you say this, right? I'd use hand gestures. I'd laugh. I would, I would have a relaxed posture, but just say, what are you telling me? Because I think there's more to this story. And then zip it, right? Build rapport, make a friend, and have them tell you. Now, I always tell my sales team, like, well, in this scenario, that didn't work, or in that scenario, it's not going to work. This stuff doesn't work in every scenario, but it works in a lot of scenarios. So if you could take, let's say, 10 deals where the seller wouldn't sign on the dotted line, and all of a sudden you use some of these techniques and now you close 3 or 4, that's an absolute game changer. All right. So just identify, number one, if you are really in a truly crazy bidding situation, get out of there. I know I've said that 3 times, but if I need to say it a 4th, I will. And the next scenario is find out what the seller values besides price. Ask the tough questions, ask them more, ask them to go deeper, go deep in that onion. And if you can solve that, right, then use a commitment, which I've talked about, right? The commitment is, okay, now that we know this, and if I can handle this problem for you, right, your tenant, your sister, your brother, your occupancy issue, the $10,000 you need today, right, the moving truck you need, whatever that is, right, if I can solve that for you today, what would be the next step? And then push that sale forward. Very, very, very important. That last part about getting the commitment is very important about pushing them over the fence. And remember, this is not about pushing a seller to do business with you, right? If you use these techniques, it should push them into another direction if you are not the right fit. I talk a lot about this on the podcast. By the way, if you want to know more about how to close sellers, and again, about the no limit selling system, this is the exact system, step by step, that I use to train my own team and thousands of the best investors across the country. You can go to nolimitsalesystem.com to get some free videos on that. Or if you want to just buy direct, just add a /backdoor to the back of that. Also, I love your reviews on iTunes. I see them. I'm going to start reading and reviewing those. If you are interested in partnering together, you've got a real estate deal in San Diego or the Treasure Coast, send me an email, support@nolimitrealestateinvesting.com. Otherwise, I'll talk to you on the next episode.